In today's world of fast-paced tournament fishing, sometimes the world of Clearwater fishing is overlooked. Unlike fishing stained water, Clearwater fishing requires precise casting, specialized equipment, and sometimes the patience of Joe. Master Clearwater fisherman Shaw Grigsby will show you the tricks of the trade to locate, approach, and catch these exclusive game fish. So settle back and enjoy some beautiful scenery on a lazy Florida river.
And this is why you need, oh, it's a good fish. Ooh. This is why you need that rod that really flexes. That tip that'll flex, that when he makes a run, and this is how you also need to use your back reel. And when you hook a big fish, you need to let them do their surge, and when they quit there like that, he's running, then when he stops, you work him back to you. And then utilize that rod, take your time, let the tip work for you. There, when he runs, see how he utilizes both the drag and a back reel technique where he can take off whatever line he needs. And just take your time with them. The bigger the fish, the more you have to let them do their thing. When he runs, you just don't, you keep pressure on it. You always want to keep pressure on it. You don't want to keep a lot of pressure because you've only got 6 or 8 or whatever pound test you're using. Come on, little darling. Come on, you big mama. What a fish. And just watch, as she runs, you've got to let her go. Come on. Come on, you big mama, you. Boy, I love it. Nothing more exciting. Now, there's 2 or 3 other good ones with her right down there, which they get into the dark spots, you can't really see them. What a beautiful fish. Come on now. Okay, let me turn back here. Now she's wearing down, slowly but surely. Let me see if I can get her up here. So just let them fight out there. Working down, as you can see that 6-pound test right there on her lip. So she's wearing it down. See if I can just reach down. Come on, you big fish. Golly, what a big one. What a stud. Shaking like a leaf. But this is the reason right here why you want a light action rod or a medium action rod. Give you some tip so that when she surges, she won't break you off. And I tell you what, you can catch some really big fish on this little light stuff. Get this off. On this little light stuff, if you just take your time. What a fish. And let me let her go. Someday, maybe one of y'all will catch this fish or catch one of her descendants. Look at her go. Golly. Hi, I'm Shaw Grigsby. In this video, I'm going to teach you everything I know about Clearwater sight fishing with tube baits. That'll take all of about a minute, so the rest of the time we'll be fishing. Let's go and talk about tube baits. What is a tube lure? They're commonly referred to in different articles as G2s, Gitsits, just tube lures. It just depends on who you're talking to and who's referring to what. What they look like is they're basically a hollow-bodied piece of plastic that's cut on the end. In other words, the back end of it's cut into a little like a skirt. So it's very similar to like a squid, and it's hollow inside. They come in various sizes. Like here's a little itty bitty one, a teeny one, and here's kind of a standard G2. Here's another standard G2. You can see the size difference. Sometimes you get, let's reach over here and get this one. Here's a 2-color shad. And going in my tackle box here, let's grab out one of my favorites is one of these clear colors. So you can see there's a variance in sizes, but they're all basically about the same, and they can be used in different situations. The way you decide what size you want to use is basically by the bait fish. Now these lures represent two of the bass's favorite food source. One would be a shad or a minnow, like this. The other, once it hits the bottom, would be like a crawfish, and you hop it and it scoots back just like a crawfish. So what you have are two of the major food sources of the largemouth, smallmouth, spotted bass, of all. In fact, I catch a lot of walleye. I catch a ton of different fish, different varieties of fish, northerns, just a whole bunch of fish on these tube lures. But today we're predominantly going to talk about largemouth bass. If you notice in the water, when you're fishing along, you notice little itty bitty shad or minnows that are, darting around, then you may want to try a real small bait, a real tiny bait. Mostly I use these normal size, regular G2s. They seem to work real well for me in most of the situations. There have been a few occasions when I've used the little one, so I keep a few on hand. Let's talk about how you rig one of these baits. The most common way is with an exposed hook. This one here is a 1/16 ounce. Just a straight jig head with a lead on the end, and a standard about a 2/0 hook is my favorite size. What you do is you take your tube lure and you take your jig head. I moisten it just a little bit, and that'll allow it to slide freely inside the tube. So just slide it in the tube up all the way to the head of the bait, which would be right there. Now you notice that the bait is curled up on the shaft of the hook. Well, to rig this properly, you want to hold the head of the bait and the head of your jig inside it. Take your index finger and your thumb and kind of grab the tube lure, slide the hook inside it. So I push it kind of forward up around the body, and then hook the tube, or hook the hook back through the tube lure. Then you have a fairly straight bait. Where you hook this hook through, you want to line the eye up. So I could turn it this way and it would not be lined up, or turn it right about there. Let me look at this straight. And there we'd have it straight in line with the hook. Then I take my index finger and my second finger there and just put my thumb behind it and push and pop the eye out. And there you have your bait rigged and ready to tie on. This is probably the most used method of fishing, or most used rig for fishing the tube lures, is the exposed hook. The problem with an exposed hook is that you're constantly getting hung if you're in cover, and as we know, bass are very cover oriented. So there's another rig that I use called the Texas rig. The Texas rig is the same way you'd rig a plastic worm. I rig these tube baits. You use a little slip sinker, and the size of that slip sinker we'll talk about later. Use a slip sinker, tie your knot onto the hook, and rig it just like you would a plastic worm. The hook I'm using is called an HP high performance hook. It's really specially designed for fishing these tube baits, but it works excellent on all types of plastic, whether it's a plastic worm or plastic crawfish or lizards or any of the rest of it. This is an excellent hook. One of the reasons this hook is so effective on a tube lure is because of this little spring clip right here. This clip, which hooks around the shank of the hook, will hold the bait securely and won't allow it to slide down and bunch up on the hook point. Because this is a hollow-bodied bait, it's very hard for this bait to be rigged on any other hook. Let me show you how we rig this hook. You insert the hook in the head of the bait, just like you would a plastic worm, and come out about 1/4 inch. It's a small distance. Don't run it down 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch. Slide the bait up the shaft to cover the eye and the knot. So you have to rotate it around a little bit and cover the eye of the knot. Then you clip this clip back on the shaft. Just use a little bit of pressure and hook it back on the shaft. Now you have a bait that's secured on the hook. Then you take the hook, I kind of line it up like this so you can see where you're going to enter the bait. I punch the hook straight through the bait. As you see, I kind of bend it and punch it straight through the bait so it enters the bait and exits the bait at about the same place. If you notice, when the bait's rigged right, the hook lays flat right on the top. So in most situations that you're fishing, if you have very little cover, you're fishing for smallmouth or spotted bass or even largemouth that are laying off on a ledge or a drop, this rig right here, you can use it just like that without doing anything else. If you're fishing cover, heavy cover, you take it, slide the bait a little bit forward. Just put your index finger and your thumb on the bait, slide it a little forward, and insert the tip of the hook just under the skin. That way, you basically have an exposed hook, but the tip is covered and it can slide through all types of trash and logs without getting hung up. If it's real severe cover, you can take a little bit deeper bite, set it under just a little bit deeper. There you have your Texas rig to fish heavy cover. One other rig that I use is the weedless hook rig, which is a jig head with a weed guard. Now there are many different types of these. There are weed guards like this, which is a filament weed guard. There's some with the wire guard. There's some with Y guards. There's some with a multi-filament wire guard. There's just a number of different weed guards. The problem I have with these is I tend to miss a few fish that I catch on an exposed hook or the Texas rig. And I don't know why, they just tend to bite it a little more tentatively, and they tend to throw the hook easier. So I just don't use this rig very often, but I'll show you about rigging these just as well. To rig the lure with a weed guard, there's two ways of rigging it. If you have this quick load head, which is this tapered head, you can simply insert the hook about 1/4 of an inch down from the head, slide the hook through the body, and just exit it about the distance, about an inch more farther down, which is about the distance you have from the eye to the end of the hook. Slide the head inside the body and just squeeze it over the head of the jig. There you have your completely rigged weedless tube lure. The second way to rig that weedless G2 is with the wire weed guards. You can take the weed guard and bend it forward, all the way forward. Then you insert the wire inside the back of the bait, inside the hollow part, and exit it about the same distance, about 1/4 inch down. So you can see it sticking through right here. Slide the bait all the way, the head of it all the way up to the front. Same trick. Put your index finger and your second finger to the side of it. Push the eye of it out and bend the weed guard back in place. And there you'll have, I'm adjusting the weed guard, there you'll have your rigged bait. If you notice that the body of the G2 is climbing up in the bend of the hook, then do the same trick. Grab the bait by the head, grab the body between your index finger and your thumb, slide the hook inside the body, and try to line it up with the head of the bait, like that, to where you have it in line, straight bait, and in line with the eye. One trick with these metal weed guards, what I do is take my pliers and I look at where this weed guard touches the point of this hook. Then I take my pliers and cut it off just above or right even with that hook. So I look about right there. I'll slide this in here, cut it off so you can see that it just touches or right even with the hook. That way, I'll also bend it down a little bit. That way, you'll catch a few more fish on it. You won't have that big weed guard in front of it that'll hinder a few of your strikes. But like I said, I don't use this rig that often. And the reason is because the Texas rig is more weedless and will catch you more fish because of that high performance hook than almost any other rig you can use. What he got on it? All right. Whew, getting me wet. I'll get my Hobies wet here. I won't be able to see anymore. This is what you call professional landing here. Usually you can do a better job of landing a fish than that. Just ate it swimming it. Now there's really 3 major techniques that I use, and 2 major ones, and then well, there's really 3 majors. 3 major techniques that I use. That's a swimming technique where you just float it down, just kind of swim it real lightly, which is the one, this one here just ate it that way. Then there's a technique of the slow drag, where you throw it out and you're letting it go down on the current. If you have current, if you don't have current, you just throw it out, let it go to the bottom, and you just barely crawl it on the bottom. And that's the second technique. And the third technique is kind of a hop. And especially if you're fishing smallmouth or even all the largemouth and all, this hop technique works real well. You throw it out, let it go to the bottom, you just pop it up and let it fall back to the bottom. That's one you see a lot of people use smallmouth fishing, and I use it in any situation, especially a deeper water situation. We're going to be fishing shallow water predominantly, and we may have a few deep water situations, but basically it'll be shallow water. And I'll be using that swimming technique and that slow drag. They both work real well. Let's go catch some more. It's really, really tough to catch fish sight fishing in the wind. The wind creates that ripple on the top, and you can't see the way these fish react. And every single fish is an individual, just like a person just about, and they react differently. And so when you present a bait, if you're able to see how he's moving and see how he reacts to what you're doing, your chances of catching that fish are greatly increased. With the ripple, you can't really see it. So now you have to just go by feel and sensitivity and just feel if that fish has bit the bait or not. And so you don't really get the opportunity to use your skills of working a bait and presenting a bait to the fish. So it's just tough, a lot tougher with wind than it is on a calm day. Man, these fish, they're just a million right in here. Kind of looking. He's in on it. There they are. Got me one. Yahoo! I love it. That's the best thing, is when they get in competition. Look at him. Oh yeah. Just a good solid keeper fish here. I'd love to have these fishing tournaments. Come on, big guy. Get out from underneath the boat here. What a nice fish. There were just a whole bunch of them, and they just, come on. There. Now he was in competition again. That's another big factor, is if you get 2 fish in competition, you can always have a lot of fun. And I just was drifting it down and just sucked it up and ate it. Which is just kind of a normal Clearwater fishing sequence of events. You'll run into them, and rarely there'll be just one fish. There's usually 2 or 3 or 4, and then when you can present a bait to them and get it down just right, they'll just get on it. And that's the factor of this real light line and an exposed hook. Now we'll be doing a lot of fishing what I call a Texas rig, which is a rig we're going to use when we get into heavy cover. There'll be logs and limbs, and there's some real big fish in that cover. So we'll be using that other rig also. But on the open water stuff, you'll notice that when I'm fishing open water with very little cover at all, that's when you use an exposed hook, because then it's got such a small bite. If you notice the hook bite here between the bait and the hook, that it really can't get into the weeds or into the stuff and get you a big bite to where you can't pull it out. You know, if it was a big hook, then you could hook into enough weeds that you couldn't with 6-pound test line. You couldn't even get the bait back, so you'd break off. But with this, it just gets a little bite of the weeds, and you can just pull it on and pull it right out from the weeds and keep on fishing, which is exactly what I want to do. Go back and see if I can catch another one or two of those little critters. Turn this on high. Let's get going. Come on, fish. Now there's a pretty good one right there at the base of it. What they do, they use these little holes. Yeah, and bury it up. They use these little holes in the grass as current breaks. So they're used to having the current wash down on them, and they can kind of, the grass will be hanging up, and it, right behind the grass is like an eddy, a pocket, so it breaks the current, and so they don't have to fight it all the time. Come on, get it. I got him. That's the biggest one in the crowd, believe it or not. Just turn back. Oh, yes. Look at that. That's it. Oh, look at him. Anyway, that's the biggest one that was in that crowd. There's a crowd of just a little fish. Now, it looks like there's two more out there. They're that big. Let's see if we can get him up. Now, this is how you just take your time. Most people tend to horse fish, and this is only 6-pound test line. Isn't he gorgeous? Golly. I'll tell you what, just a beautiful fish. But most people tend to force the fish, and you just gotta let them play out. You gotta understand that. And we'll hook fish that are, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10, 11 pounders on this light stuff. You just take your time with them. Just work them up. Ah, there you go, big guy. And just take your time, work them up, and wear them down. If you try to land them green, you know, if you're used to catching them on spinner baits and buzz baits and just winching them in with your bait casting reels and all, then you're going to tend to break some fish off and lose them on this light stuff. And boy, that got him just super. Ugh. What a deal. I tell you what, just I love catching them. It brings all the excitement back to fishing, you know, because you don't know. He's a good fish. It's on light line. You don't know how long it's going to take you to get him in, or if you're even going to get him in, you know, because it's such light line. But it's a thrill, and it's actually a lot of skill and technique involved in catching them, and it just brings a lot of fun back into fishing. I'm gonna let him go, grow up and be one of my big 10-pounders I'm gonna catch next year, huh, or in a few years. Now this is something that's real important about every fish with light line. You'll want to retie. And let me get my line untangled here from my rod tip. I'm going to retie this real quick. One thing you can key in on is on any type of open water situation or clear water situation, you can key on absolutely on cover. Floating stuff, junk on the top, pilings, poles, docks. And right here we have a point, so you can see trees and limbs overhanging. Points are just fantastic, and that's normal on anything. You deep crank points, you Carolina rig points, you catch fish on points in the grass. If you're fishing, fish points. They're always good. So we're going to swing out and try to catch one here real quick off of this. Now the point actually starts right in here and goes all the way around. So anywhere down this little edge here, we ought to be able to catch one. See what we can find here. One thing I think that messes people's minds up is how many fish you can see when you're fishing Clearwater. You know, I'll fish some of the Clearwater reservoirs. You get down to the lower end of the lake, it's usually crystal clear. You'll see a ton of fish, but you're only going to catch a small percentage of that. You need to remember that, and don't let it bother you that you're only going to catch a small percentage, but you know that that small percentage you catch is going to be pretty good. It's going to be unmolested fish. They're not going to have a lot of pressure on them like all the rest of the places in the lake that have stained water or dirty water. There we go. There's 2 of them down there. 3 of them. Good golly, now you can see more of them. 3 or 4 of them down there. And, whoa! I think he thinks he's about a 4-pounder, I believe. Uh-oh, now he buried me in the grass. There he is, now he's up in the grass. Now that's what, look at him, looks like a pig down there rooting in there. Come on, buddy. Now he's right at the side of the boat, he just roots in the grass. And that's what you don't want to get in a tug of war with these fish when they get in that stuff. You just want to take it easy. Now this one is really, there he is. You can see him, he's really bottom oriented. He hadn't even attempted to jump, and yet he's digging. You can see the grass moving, he's digging in the grass. See him down here wrapping up, trying to bury down in the grass. Every fish is a little different in what their mannerisms and all. Some of them will come to the top immediately, and others will get down in there and bury in. If you tried pulling real hard, a lot of times what will happen, when they get in the grass, you try pulling real hard, you can break your line or pull it out of his mouth when he's just, like this one's just barely hooked. I mean, I didn't even need to put any pressure. So just keeping pressure on him, letting him fight himself out in there, allowed me to catch that fish. This was my little pig bass here. he was grubbing, you can see mud flying and everything. Go get him, big guy. But he was down there just rooting in the well, you can see all the stuff on my line here that he dug up from the bottom. But I usually deal with those fish that turn around as soon as you hook them. They shake their head a few times and come straight up and jump. And that one did just the opposite. But the same technique will work on those big fish. It's just let them dig. I'll show you a neat trick I could have shown you on that. Whenever one goes up under something, if you can get positioned the way he went in, you can pull him right out that same direction. So when he went up under the grass in this angle, position your boat down current or from the same direction he went in, and you can work him right back out of it. All right, let's see what we got. Mother biggins. Boy, I love catching these critters. I think we just jumped. Ready for an 8-point to come bounding by. What you key in on, a lot of times you won't be able to see your bait. And it's real important. This is sight fishing. You're watching your bait and you're watching the fish. And most of the times, they'll key in on each other. So a lot of times I'll lose my bait and I'll just watch the fish, and where the fish goes, I know he's after the bait. And other times I'm able to follow my bait completely and watch it sinking down into him. Okay, I got her located now. If I can present a cast right. Okay, we'll drift it right back into her. What she did, she pulled out from the cover. Oh, now there's 3 more of those big mothers coming out of here. All of them big old mama bass. I like it. Come on, you big fish. She's perfect. Come on, right there. Over that rock. He's got it. I got him. What a good fish. Now this is where you got to use, look at him run into the woods. This is where you use all your skill. Now you see I'm utilizing drag. He's in the trees now, he comes out. You got to utilize a light drag. Don't worry about him getting into the woods. Big son of a gun. And I also use a back reeling technique, which we can, oh, what a nice fish. Doggone it, that was wonderful. I was just whoa, come on, buddy. 6-0. Now there you can hear the reel back reeling. 6-pound test, and she's going into the trees. Don't worry about it though. If you get upset about it and try to keep her from going in, that's when you break her off and lose her. And we just work her on down. Now I just worked her right back out. Now, come on, you big mama, you. Boy, I love it. Nothing more exciting. Now, there's 2 or 3 other good ones with her right down there. Once they get into the dark spots, you can't really see them. What a beautiful fish. Come on now. Oh, yeah. But that's what you have to do when you hook one of these big ones, is really play them light, wear them down, and don't try to land them premature. So just let them fight out there. Working down, as you can see that 6-pound test right there on her lip. So she's wearing it down. Let's see if I can just reach down here. Oh, how about that? Now that is a slab. What a beautiful fish. Boy, she inhaled it too. What a beautiful fish. There we go. Well, pretty lady, I think we're gonna let you grow up and get to be real big. But that's the secret right there in catching one of these big ones on this light of line, is let them run back in, let them wear themselves out. And if you watched, she'll make an initial burst and then she'll slow down. And then she'll make a burst and she'll slow down. If you try to hold them when they make that burst, you're gonna break them off. They've got too much power for you to hold them back. So you let them make the burst, and then when they hesitate, slow down just a bit, you work them back up. What a beautiful fish. Gosh, I love it. All right. Let you swim on back down there. There she goes right there. You can sit there and see her swimming back home. What a fish. Let's talk about the jig head sizes that we use in tube lure fishing. I predominantly use real light heads, such as this 32nd ounce or this 16th ounce. The style that you use may vary, but look for the weight, 32nd, 16th. Sometimes the 1/8 ounce if you're fishing deeper water, such as 10 feet or deeper. Predominantly I'm fishing shallow water, and I'll use these lighter weights. If you fish extremely deep water, you may use the 1/4 ounce size. Let's talk about these lighter weights. The reason we use these lighter weights are because we want a very lifelike action to the bait. If you have a bait that just immediately drops to the bottom with like a 1/4 ounce weight, there's nothing out there that I know of that's natural in the water that falls that fast. So it's very unnatural for that bait to have a heavy head. Whereas if you watch minnows or even crawfish, if you scare a crawfish and he scoots up and scoots away from you, he falls rather slowly. And that's because they kind of flare out their tail and they just fall rather slowly. The same with the minnow. Minnows don't fall to the bottom and lay on the bottom. If they're injured or if they're very lively, they still fall rather slowly, real slow. That's why we use these lighter heads. It gives a very natural appearance to the bait. With the Texas rig, I use exactly the same weights. I use a 32nd ounce or a 16th ounce and sometimes an 1/8 ounce. Those tend to work very well for me in all the conditions. Because of these lightweight baits, we need some special equipment to fish them. My favorite outfit is spinning tackle. The reason being is these spinning reels will throw real light line a long distance, and you're able to handle a varied size of lines from 4 pound, 6 pound, 8 pound, all the way up to 14 if you need to. You can also use a spin cast reel because they have a free flow of line from the spool. A very good outfit for fishing these light baits. One other outfit that's brand new, and we've just finally got it for you die-hard bait cast fishermen, is a ultralight bait cast reel. This reel, which is a Quantum Pro Light, will throw super small line like this 8-pound test line, and these little itty bitty 16th ounce or 32nd ounce baits will throw them very, very effectively. The only problem is you can't skip these baits with bait casting, and there's some cover situations that you won't be able to get a bait to with bait casting. But it's nice to know that we have a quality bait cast reel to throw these small baits. With these light baits, not only do we need a reel that will throw light line and handle that light of bait, but we need a rod that will also handle it. My favorite rod is a 6-foot medium light or medium action rod. With the Texas rig, I prefer a medium action rod. It's got some good stiffness, some butt stiffness in here to set the hook, and yet it's got enough tip flex to where you won't break off on these light lines. With the exposed hook rig, I prefer a medium light action rod, same length, 6 foot. The reason for the little extra tip is because you don't need a lot of power in setting a hook. Another reason for having these medium light or medium action rods is so you have enough flex in the rod when you hook that big fish and she makes that run that you don't break off or you don't pull the hook out. With all these rigs, we're using relatively small hooks, so you can end up bending them straight if you used a heavier action rod or heavy line. Now I've got one sitting right there. If I can, there's a good one coming in on it right now. Okay, there it is. It's settling in. There's the one. I think now that he's on his own, he doesn't really care. Oh, the other one's coming out now. Now they're fighting over it. No, they're just not going to do it. Doggone it. This is getting tough. See if I present that right. There we go. That's a little more like it. There's the big one. There's a little one. He's after it. Here they come, here they come. Good fish. The little one's gonna get it though. Oh, he's got it. That's the problem. He's got it. Dog, I was wondering why the other ones weren't gonna bite, and he already had it and was swimming off with it. He's not that good a fish. I want to get him in kind of quick and try to get back and get that big one. Come, oh, he got off right there. Now that's what you call perfect. If you don't mind losing one, that's the situation you don't mind losing him in. It's when you got a couple 6 or 7 pounders laying out here. You can. Now that's generally what happens when you force a fish on light line. That fish would be pretty easily in the boat if I'd fought him and played him and just had a good time. But out here, and that's one thing you always want to remember, and I shouldn't have probably done it. A bird in the hand's worth 2 in the bush always, as the old saying goes. And there's some big ones out there waiting to get caught. But waiting to get caught is a chance in, a slim chance, as opposed to you already having him hooked and ready to go. Is on the Texas rig. Get him back here. Now he just bit it down there on the, there's a whole bunch of them right there. Didn't even realize it, but he bit it on the slow drag down there. It just sank down. It was dragging along, just kind of bumping on the bottom. And he came up and just ate it up. Now that's, like I said, an advantage of a Texas rig. He's not a huge fish by any means. Boy, he's fighting though. Come on, guy. But the advantage is that you can get it down there and let it just kind of bump the bottom and just kind of follow the contour of the bottom. If you got hydrilla, or if you got, we got a lot of hydrilla in here. We've got just regular grass, a lot of tree limbs and logs. And when you get that situation, you throw an exposed hook in there and you're not gonna get it out. It's gonna get hung up. And that'll cost you some fishing time and break-offs and baits. So I'll go to that Texas rig and just start bumping it down the bottom. There he is. Oh yeah. And this is why you need, it's a good fish. Ooh. This is why you need that rod that really flexes. That tip that'll flex, that when he makes a run, and this is how you also need to use your back reeling. When you hook a big fish, you need to let them do their surge, and when they quit there like that, he's running, then when he stops, you work him back to you. And then utilize that rod, take your time, Let the tip work for you. There, when he runs, see, I utilize both the drag and a back reel technique where he can take off whatever line he needs and just take your time with them. The bigger the fish, the more you have to let them do their thing. When he runs, you just don't, you keep pressure on it. You always want to keep pressure on it. You don't want to keep a lot of pressure because you've only got 6 or 8 or whatever pound test you're using. And so you just kind of let him, when he runs, you let him run, and when he backs off, that's when you work him in. Let's get him on. Oh, big guy. Whoa. Come on. Ah, there we go. What a pretty fish. See if I can get him unhooked here. That's a tough hook job. This hook really will get him. I don't know if I would get this unhooked. It got a combination of bone and... I'll get my pliers real quick and just pop it out. There we go. Anyway, if you take your time with these fish, even a nice one like this, take your time, let them fight, play them down. You do have a lot of fun with this light line and these tube baits. And lay him back, and remember, always catch and release with these fish. That way all our kids and our kids' kids can have fun forever catching these fish. A lot of fun. Let's go see if we can find another one. Whoa, yeah. What a fish. That bait hit the water. Golly, I am all messed up. Boy, what a gorgeous fish. Here we go. Oh, what a hog, what a hog. I threw the bait out there, it hit the water and was just kind of swimming it down and just annihilated it. Raced out there and just busted it. Uh-oh, I think we got a rooter. Yep, we got a rooter. Roto-rooter. No, this is a, look at this. This thing just wants to go down. But remember, take your time. Just digging in the muck. Looks like he's the lawnmower or something. He says, yeah, I get down in that stuff. I'll get rid of this little 6-pound test line. I'll root around in here. Oh, I think you're about to give it up though. Come on, Mr. Bass. Look at that. Is that not a gorgeous fish? Light lining. Ah. All right. You don't need to get me wet. Come on, big fella. I tell you what, I am the worst at getting a hold of these critters. A rooter. Boy, he dug up every bit of slime and muck and gunk that's down there. Just stay down. Some of them come up, some of them stay down. But the techniques all work the same. One thing I did want to stress is that on all the techniques, now that one hit it just basically swimming. It hit the water and it just started swimming down and just raced out there and grabbed it. Good golly, I tell you what. This is the pits. Anyway, the thing I wanted to stress the most is that don't get set in fishing a particular way or method. You'll see me catch a lot of fish on that drag. It's one of my favorite deals, is letting it go to the bottom and then just dragging it down the bottom real slow. Don't get set in just doing one thing. I catch a lot of fish that way. I catch a lot of fish swimming it. I catch a lot of fish hopping it. And so mix it up. Sometimes I'll swim it for a bit and then drop it. Sometimes I'll be dragging a little bit and pop it up and then swim it in. So you catch them in all different ways, and that's the same with fishing in general. If you get locked into fishing one particular way or one particular method, then you probably won't be real effective in all the situations you can encounter in a day, because fish change daily. They change by the hour, depending on frontal conditions and weather conditions. Let me let this big guy go. Ha! What a fight. I love it. Get on back there. Good fish. Whew. Goes back down there, he's rooting again. But you have to present the bait just right in front of the fish. If you have current, you can throw up 4, 5, 6 feet in front of him, let it drift down, or 10 feet in front of him. If you don't have current, you just throw, if the fish is swimming along, you throw way up in front of him, 10, 15, 20 feet, let the bait drift down so that you want that bait in position before that fish gets there. So you're trying to lead it. It's a lot like hunting ducks or something. You got to get out there and lead them before you pull the trigger. It's the same thing with sight fishing. You want to lead that fish, present the bait quietly, let it drift down to them, or let it just slowly swim down to the bottom, and then hopefully you'll watch that fish key in on it. And if he keys in on it, that's when all your skill has to come in. You have to sit there and just move it real slow. Sometimes they want it fast, so sometimes you'll have to try the hop, and sometimes you just try to swim it on by. So there's a lot of different ways to catch them, and just make sure you mix it up and give it a try, because they'll change, like I said, they'll change hourly. Oh yeah. As you can hear my drag going out, one thing you want to remember, on a Texas rig, you need to set a hook. But because you're setting a hook, you want that drag loose because we have such a light line. So set your drag to where a couple pound fish can take it out. Come on, fish. The other thing you want to remember is on the exposed hook, we don't set a hook. We just kind of pull back on it fairly firmly, and you'll catch that fish. But you still want that drag very loose. Let this little one go. In all the fishing that you do, your weakest link is your fishing line. What I use is a premium monofilament with a lot of abrasion resistance. I fish heavy cover. A lot of times the fish, even if you're not in heavy cover, will run you into heavy cover, and therefore you need line with some tough abrasion resistance. And this is the best I found. A great line to use nowadays is the thin lines. There's a whole variety of these lines out now. The advantage of these thin lines are that for the same pound test or the same strength, you have extremely small diameters. That way you get a few more strikes. Also, you can utilize a small diameter for allowing a bait to sink faster if you're fishing deep water, or just allowing you less resistance in the water so a bait will have a little more action. I prefer the lighter lines for fishing these tube baits. I use 6, 8, and 10 pound tests predominantly. In real clear water, 6 pound test and 8 pound test get me a few more bites. Also, that 6 and 8 pound test will give you a little more action. In real heavy cover, I'll go to 10 pound test line. The bigger diameter, the little better abrasion resistance will give you a better chance of landing that big fish. Let's talk about the knots that we use. I'm going to rig a Texas rig here and tie my favorite knot. We're going to slide on the slip sinker, a little 1/16 ounce, grab one of these high performance hooks, and my favorite knot for this power fishing that we're going to do with this light line is a double improved clinch knot. So I take the line and double it. I get about 1 foot to 18 inches of line, squeeze the end down, and now this is now where I doubled it over, bent it over, that's the end. Insert it in the eye of the hook, pull out about 3 or 4 inches, and wrap it 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I've completed my wraps, as you noticed, I put my index finger here right on the eye to wrap it. That created a loop. I'll take this end and run it through that loop. At that point, That, if I secured the knot then, that's called a cinch knot or a clinch knot, depending on what book you're reading. But since I created a loop from the top going down to the bottom, to improve it, I'll run the end through that second loop, or the loop I created. That's called an improved clinch knot. I then secure the loop, or the end, and pull, let me see how I can do that. Secure the end and cinch the knot down. Then I grab my clippers, and remember, we always use clippers. You don't want to bite it with your teeth. It's tremendously bad for your teeth. I'll clip the tag ends. There I have an extremely tough knot. That's my favorite knot for all my power baits. I use that on spinner baits and flipping heavy cover, and I also use it on this light line because it's an extremely tough knot. One other knot I would like to show you is the Palomar knot. The reason I want to put this in is because this is an extremely strong knot, and it's a very easy knot to tie. So if you have young kids that you want to teach to fish, you can teach them this knot. You double your line again, just the same as we did with the improved clinch. Pinch down the end, slide it through the eye of the bait, and then you just tie an overhand knot. So I put my index finger in here, tie an overhand knot, which is just like tying your shoes, like that. Then you drop the bait, you release the end here, drop the bait through this loop, like that. Okay. A little tip, you could cinch the knot down at this point, but a little tip to make it stronger is once you've dropped the bait through the loop, is grab by the eye and cinch up this line. And if you look real carefully, if you kind of spread this loop out with your fingers, you'll watch the end flop over on top. So right there, it flopped over. Now once you've done that, as you can see, it cinches down real smoothly. That'll give you a little extra strength. You don't have to do that. If you just cinch it down at that point, just tie the overhand, drop it through, pull it down, you'll have an exceptional knot. Very easy knot. An advantage to using this knot, as you can see, is it's extremely small, so that there's no bulky look to the bait. So if you're fishing a real finesseful bait, then that little knot may get you an extra strike or two. One thing you want to remember about all your baits is to sharpen that hook. I sharpen all my hooks tremendously. You want them extremely tacky. The reason you want it so sharp is that if it just touches the fish, it'll hold. Golly, this is when I want a little tighter drag. What a fish. All right, here's where we're gonna have to back reel. She goes up the canal, up the creek. Here, what a fish. Come on, little darling. Whew. Boy, I tell you, these big fish will just flat scare you. My heart's beating. Come on, you big mama. What a fish. And just watch, as she runs, you've got to let her go. Come on, she's going for the grass, but she's too big for me to stop her. So what I'm gonna do, she's in the grass. All right, oh, now she's just turned. See, she quit. I was real fortunate there that she got tired right as she hit the grass, and I'm pulling her back out. Oh, what a fish. Come on, little darling. Okay, now she's making another burst, and you let her go when she makes that run. And in the grass she goes again. All right, now that time she got in. So now it's time, she slowed down. So as soon as she stops running, I'm gonna put some pressure on her. There we go. And I brought her right back out the way she went in. Okay, let me turn back here. Now she's wearing down, slowly but surely. Let me see if I can get her up here. Oh, one more jump maybe. I'm shaking. There's a fish for light line. That was 6-pound test. It was all I could handle right there. Let me unhook this little fella, or big lady. We're just gonna let her go. We're just gonna let her go and grow. As you can tell, I'm rather nervous here, catching a fish that big. Most people think that these tube lures are springtime bait. But as you can see, we're catching some mighty large fish, and we're fishing late fall. Water temperature 74, 75 degrees, and we're just catching some nice fish. These baits can be used all year round, especially in the fall when they're schooling and feeding on shad, all the way through winter time when they're deep, back into the springtime, and obviously during the summertime. It's a year-round bait because it's so natural, so lifelike, with a small body and the presentation that makes it look like a shad or a crawfish. Let's go catch another one. Whew. I don't know if my heart can handle it. Ooh, there we go. Yeah. Look at him. Whoa. Boy, he's just thrashing away down there. I tell you, it's a real important factor, even though we got the lights getting a little low, but to have those sunglasses. And to tell you what, if you had blue lens sunglasses right now with the light as low as it is, you probably couldn't see these fish as well. You know, just swimming the banks, it'd be real hard to see. Just take our time with him and get him up here. Nice little fish. But with an amber pair of sunglasses, it'll pick up a lot more light, allow more light in on the darker days. So if it's cloudy and overcast, you know, those brown or amber pair of glasses are probably the best pair you can have. And one thing you want to remember about sunglasses, if you just go down to the store and buy yourself a pair of sunglasses, sometimes that can hurt your eyes more than not wearing them. And the reason being is it'll let the ultraviolet rays in, and the ultraviolet rays will cause cataracts. And this HP high performance hook has buried this fish. There we go. Just pop it out. But if you let in the ultraviolet rays, then you can get cataracts. So the best thing you want is a pair of sunglasses like these Hobies that don't let any ultraviolet rays, blocks out 100% of the ultraviolet, plus it's polarized, and they're optical glass lenses to where you can see just tremendously clear. We'll let this big old thing go. Let her swim. There he goes. So when you pick out a pair of glasses, make sure you pick out one that has that ultraviolet blockage to it. And I really prefer the amber lenses. I keep a pair of each in the boat. One pair of blue lenses, one pair of amber lenses. And the reason being is on those cloudy days, I can wear these ambers. If it's a real bright, harsh day, you know, high blue skies and real bright, then I'll turn around and put on the blue pair because it tends to mellow out the day a little bit better than the amber. Like I said, the amber will be a little bit brighter, or these browns. So these are really brown lenses. So that's the best pair of glasses I've ever used. You can really see super well. One question I commonly get asked is, do I use fish sprays, you know, the scent sprays and all? And I do, and there's many a times when it makes a major difference. Other times it may not make much difference at all, but I always use it because of those few times when it'll really catch them. Every now and then, that'll make the big difference. There he is. Come on, big fella. Golly. Just sank down and he ate it. Whew. Come on, big guy. Boy, now he is feisty. Get you on up here. I'm kind of horsing this one. Ah, come on. Okay, that's what you call a professional landing job. I don't think this fish is ready to give up. I let it back reel when he runs, and then I come back and let's work him back up. Get him up here. Now this is what you call a two-handed. Let's get it unhooked. Two-handed job. We'll let him go real quick. And when fishing this Texas rig in heavy cover, in bushes or in the grass, or if you're skipping it under docks, you need to remember to peg the weight. The way I peg it is just take a toothpick, insert it into the weight, take your clippers, and what I do is clip it off right flush at the end. Then I can slide it down, and it makes a perfect skipping package. To make a good skip cast, you want to rotate your rod like a backward C or a loop, and that will allow you to make a good skip cast. God, I drilled him that time. Yes, you sorry little fish, I love it. Ate it. Now that's what you call deep fishing. He was down there deep in 8 or 9 feet of water, and just slow crawling it down there. Come on, you big fish. Golly, you'd think you were 8 pounds fighting that hard. Ah, well, caught this little guy. As soon as that fish sees you or sees the boat, he's probably gonna spook and turn off, and you really don't have a good shot at him then. You know, you can come back later when he calms down and you might get a real good shot on him, but boy, if he sees you, that's why it's so important to make long casts and to spot that fish ahead of time. It's real similar to hunting. You know, you're hunting for the fish, you're watching for them, and you have to spot them before they spot you or hear you or see you or anything like that. And it's just a real intense, and it's a neat kind of fishing because you, when you see him, it's you against the fish. It's not like you're just reeling a spinnerbait in and all of a sudden he hits and you don't really know why that fish hit. Where on this situation, you're watching every move he makes, whether he lunges at the bait or he noses down on it or she's swimming up to it or what it is. You can see fin movement. It's just really kind of a real unique, neat kind of situation. There was a good fish, but she'd already seen me while I was yakking away. Was that a heck of a deal, boy? I mean, you talk about placement now. You gotta have the body language, though, to get this right now. Otherwise, your cast goes wild, you know. We'll see it again. It's like a baseball player winding up, you know, for the pitch. Came up and ate this, and it was just swimming it down, kind of floating it down in the current. Golly, man, there's 10 of them with him. Look at the school of fish, this is incredible. There must be 20, golly, there's more than that. There's at least 20 or 25 fish, and they're all good fish, 2 3-pounders. See if I can turn us back up here. He just spit out a good shad right here. Come on, big guy. That's why you want to use a real light action rod so you can fight these fish. This is a 6-pound test line. Let's get him in. See if I can get it. Come on, big guy. Boy, he just ate the bait. Just sucked it up. Swallowed it. I love it. Way down in there. Thought it was a minnow or a crawfish, which is just what these baits are representing. See if I can get it out. He really got it down there deep. But there were literally at least 30 fish this size or bigger with him. Just amazing. You just take your time and you can land just about any fish on this light tackle. Well, let him go. He's gone. Just a, what a fish. There's a couple good ones in there. Good golly. Most of them are just little fish. Here's a good one coming in. There's one just bit it. He's small. Got him. Unfortunately, this is one of the small ones. I was hoping one of the big ones would get it. But that's an advantage of using the Texas rig, is that you can fish it all through the moss and the slime and just never worry about getting hung up, and it keeps the bait real presentable all the time. Get this little guy. Come on, guy. Fighting like you a 10-pounder. He's not a real big fish, but that Texas rig will really get them in that heavy stuff, or when you're dealing with a lot of cover, a lot of junk on the bottom, so you don't get hung up. I really like it. I hope in this video you've learned that you can catch some mighty big fish on little tube baits like this G2 and on real light line. And remember, when those fish tear up your baits like plastic worms and G2s, don't throw them overboard. Throw them in the bottom of your boat. And same thing with your fishing line. After you cut off an end from tying a knot, or you get a snarl and you cut it out, throw that in the bottom of your boat. Pick it up the end of the day, let's put it in a trash can. That way, we'll keep our waters clean for many, many years, and we can all enjoy them. Got it. I don't think I still got him. Is that fun? Just believe that. Oh, yeah, I do have him. I'm all hung up in here, but he's buried. He's a hog too. I mean, this fish is that big. The problem is, everything got hung up on this blade of grass. Now I gotta break the blade of grass, or 2 blades of grass. My hog. Big fish, heavy cover. Light line, 6-pound test. We are hogging today. Had to go dig him out. 1 pitch. Well, I'll get all this stuff taken care of sometime. There he is, folks. Boy, he ate it too. Little guy, you better stay in that heavy cover and hide, because them big guys are gonna be out to get you.